The purpose of this morning is one, to run through what the official warm-up is going to be for the next few days. So again, many of you warm up, hopefully all of you warm up in some way normally. So what we're trying to do today is standardize it somewhat. There's not a perfect warm-up. This is a great example of a good high quality warm-up. But again, it's something that you can maybe take a few pointers with when you go back to your home clubs, add one or two little things from what we're doing today to try to make you a little bit better athlete and to prepare you for your tennis practice. So we've got a sheet here that all your pros have, and they're going to work throughout the next few days. So if you have any questions as we go along, you can ask them. They'll be able to provide some feedback. But again, the purpose of it is we all have limited time. Many of you that play in the north or play in indoor courts, you don't want to spend all your time warming up. We understand that. You want to get out there and play tennis. But if you do this on a regular basis, it's going to improve your performance, hopefully reduce your chance of injury, and really make you better as a tennis athlete. So I'm going to get Johnny Frazier to come up here, as well as some of the fitness staff to come demonstrate. We've got Lalo Vicenzo as well. Want to thank these guys for being involved. And they're going to go through the demonstrations as we go through it. And the purpose is to really see how to do it correctly and to see the purpose behind it. So I'm working off this sheet that all of you have seen. And the initial purpose of the warm-up is to get that heart rate going. There's a lot of ways you can do it. We're going to start initially with jumping jacks. So many of you think back to elementary school, high school, so we'll start them with jumping jacks. Lala, we'll get someone on this side here. So let's do 25 jumping jacks. Go ahead. Again, the purpose here, just loosen up. You could do a lot of different things to get there, but the purpose right now is to raise heart rate. Then once they do their 25, then it's a light jog. Okay, so we're going to do a light jog one time around the courts. Go ahead. When you do it out here, you're probably not going to run around the courts. You're going to run side to side along the doubles line. So there's a couple options there depending on how many people you have on your courts. Again, purpose right now is when you're resting, your heart rate's anywhere between, if you're really in unbelievable shape, somewhere in the 40s or 50s. Many of you are going to be between 60 and 80 with your resting heart rate. The goal here is to get it above about 140 before we start getting into sort of 120 to 140 is the range that we're looking for. Okay, so once they do that, then we do some side shuffles. Just real simple, doubles line to doubles line. Go ahead. Staying low, trying to just loosen up. Again, remember, tennis is nearly 70% lateral movements. All of you that play a lot of singles especially are going to be moving laterally, so we want to loosen that up. Then we go into the next phase. So this first phase is just kind of loosen up, get the heart rate going, not that specific, it's more general. Now there's a concept of activate, or just get the muscles to sort of feel like they're working a little bit. So we're going to start with the Ys. So Johnny, if you can demonstrate the Ys initially. So all it is just loosening up the shoulder. So you just do a set of 5 there, very simple. And the purpose here is, we want to make sure that those shoulders get loosened up early on. Then we go into Ts. So as you can see, they're just doing a very simple movement, loosening up the shoulders. Then Ws. That's just keeping the elbows in close. And then we go into low rows. Again, very, very simple. Just trying to get the shoulders to get a bit of blood flow and loosen up. Now we go into monster walks, which is for the lower body, the glutes and the hips. So go ahead, get low. Butt down, chest upright. The goal here is to keep spacing. So keep your feet approximately shoulder width apart the entire time. You don't want to bring your feet completely together. You want to make sure that there's a little spacing the entire time. Your objective is to get as low as possible. The lower we can go with this, the more we recruit the muscles that we're trying to make sure are working when we play tennis. So work on good posture as well. Many of you, this may be a challenge to get low, so you go to wherever your limit is today. And then over time, the hope is you can get lower and lower. So again, once they finish through here, a couple things you want to focus on is, keeping your head up, keeping your shoulders back as best as we can, and ideally keep your toes pointed forwards. Now we go into the next stage, which is mobilize. So now we're starting to really get a little bit more specific into movements that we may see somewhat on court. So we'll go into 20 twists. So if we go ahead here. So again, twist and rotations are pretty important for tennis. Again, we can do this, as we can see here, it's relatively slow and controlled right now. We haven't fully warmed up completely, so we're just loosening up the muscles that you're going to be utilizing. Then we go into 10 squats. So again, just body weight squats, trying to each time get a little bit lower. The first couple you may feel a little stiff here. We want to loosen that up, and by the time we get to 7, 8, 9, 10, you're able to get a little bit deeper and into that position. So again, that's the objective there. So now we take him into lunges, and all of you have probably done lunges of some form before. The goal here is to just work on posture, work on positioning, and work on stabilizing effectively. So go ahead, we'll lunge from doubles line to doubles line. Notice good positioning, shoulders back, head straight. Big thing here is you want to push your weight through your heels on that front leg a little bit. We just want to be careful that we don't go too far with our knees over our toes. So you want to make sure we have good positioning, controlled, working through it. A lot of people ask, what do we do with the hands in lunges? And there's a lot of different options. You can put your hands across your chest. You can put your hands out to your side. You can put your hands out in front. You can put your hands above your head. If you put your hands above your head, it's going to be a little harder. We're moving our center of mass higher, which for many of you, will really add to the difficulty of it. So you want to start initially with your hands somewhere around your chest level. Could be out in front, could be crossed over. If that feels pretty comfortable, you can try to make it a bit more difficult and raise your hands above your head. So now we do lunges with rotation. So again, tennis is a rotational sport. We want to work on being able to stabilize with our lower body, and that's the purpose of this. We're lunging into this position and then rotating with our upper body. So go ahead. So lunge and then rotate. There's a few different options that you can utilize on the lunge with rotation. You can rotate over the front leg. You can rotate in the opposite direction of the front leg. So if they're going to take a step with their right leg, you can rotate to your right. If you take a step with your right leg, you can also rotate to your left, or you can do both at one time. So there's 2 or 3 simple variations here. Purpose behind it, again, is to stabilize with the lower body as best we can, and then we really want to be able to rotate with the upper body. Just like you hit forehands and backhands, your lower body needs to really be your source of stability, and then your upper body needs to transfer that energy that you've created out into the ball. So if you're unstable in these type positions, it makes it very, very difficult to get the power that you want on your strokes. So although we're thinking of this sometimes as a warm-up, if it's done correctly, this is really an important daily training for you to become better tennis players and really have it transfer to the sport. Our big purpose with a lot of the fitness things you'll see this weekend is how do we transfer it to you being better tennis players. It's not just about getting fitter and stronger, more endurance, more flexibility by itself. It's about getting those things developed so that we can take you to another level on the tennis court. Remember, sport specificity, tennis specificity is really, really important. And if you keep that in mind as you go through all these different exercises, it'll really help you link it with what you're trying to do on court. Okay, the next one is 20 knee hugs. So again, we want to bring the knee to the chest. Go ahead. So again, this really works on your balance. So some of you that may have had, some injuries previously or just coming back, whether it's your hip, whether it's your lower back, whether you've had some balance challenges, this one could be challenging to maintain balance. So we want to work through it, try to get up, knees up, shoulders back, head straight. It's really, really important that we work on posture as best we can here. You can see the demonstrators do a phenomenal job. They've been doing this for many years, Your goal is to try to mimic what they're doing when you get out there today and see how stable you can be, keeping that head up. Yeah, exactly. We want to also see what is realistically possible as well. So being realistic about where you're at today, one of the cues for you to try to keep your balance if you're struggling a little bit is to focus with your eyes on a spot in front of you to make sure that you pick a spot out in front of you when you look at. That can help a little bit with your balance. The other thing when you do this, try to point your toes to the sky. It's a small little tip, but the purpose behind this has multiple reasons. One is by keeping our toes pointed to the sky, we're actually recruiting certain muscles in the lower limb, which we need for our ankle to be able to move in a dorsiflex position. So the goal of that is to be able to generate more power into the ground with every step that you take. And if you do this repetitively over time, you'll be able to develop a better position so you can generate more force into the ground. As we know, more force into the ground in a quicker time period means you're more powerful. And what's the objective of most tennis players is to be more powerful. So if we do little things like this that you may not immediately think has much direct correlation with tennis play, but if you do these little things regularly, it can really make a big difference and transfer really well. Okay, so the next one is the 20 quad hold and reach. So what we're going to do is 20 of these, go the quad stretch, and then hold and reach up with the opposing arm. Again, stresses the coordination and the balance component here. So for many of you, again, this could really challenge you, which is the point. We really want to see where people are at, want to see, if you've never done this before, this will be a real interesting one to see where your comfort zone is. If you feel like this is super easy and no problems at all, you're doing great, way to make it a little bit harder is the leg that you aren't grasping for the quad stretch, go up on your toes. So to make it a little tougher, if you can go up on your toe on the other leg and hold for 2 seconds at the top, that'll really make it a bit more challenging. So for many of the rock stars in here that have been doing this for a while and they want to really challenge themselves, that's one way to make this a little bit more difficult. Okay, the next one, we'll go from here just for time purposes. We'll go 20, again, hamstring sweep to the floor. So we'll do this one. So we're really pushing back. The goal objective here is to try to keep your back straight and stick your butt as far back as possible. So again, the goal here is to try to feel it in your hamstring muscles. Again, remember the goal of all of these is to loosen up, to stretch, to try to make sure that we get as well a little bit better. Many of you play multiple times per week, and if you did this before every single practice, over the course of a month, you'd get a lot more flexible, you'd really, really improve, and you wouldn't add a lot more time to your total training because you're going to do some form of warm-up hopefully anyway. So if you add these type of movements on a regular basis, you can significantly improve without adding a full another training session to what you do. Okay, the next one is the single leg with arms out to the side. So we'll go, it's kind of, sometimes you'll hear this called as a stalk exercise, so go ahead. Again, challenging coordination, challenging your balance. Objective here is to really try to keep your back straight, keep your leg that's in the air as straight as possible. And for many of you, you're going to really feel like you're going to tip one side or the other. And that tells you something. That's a really good self-assessment. Hey, my balance probably is an area I may need to work on. And why am I having trouble with balance? Typically, it tells me that something isn't as stable as it should be in my hip, in my lower back, even in my lower leg. So if you've got weak ankles, it may cause you to have trouble with balance here. If your hip is not as stable and is not as strong as it should be in a single leg movement, that gives you some input that, hey, maybe I need to work on this. Because most of you realize that tennis is usually played on one leg. Nearly all your movements, all your strokes, majority of your body weight is on one leg. Even though we are hopefully balanced when we do things, we need to make sure that our stability on one leg is a big priority of our training. So whether you're in the gym, whether you're doing your warm-up routines here, you want to make sure that you do a lot of the single leg work to ensure that you're stable on both sides. Okay, so that's probably going to be the most challenging segment of the entire warm-up for all of you, because it is relatively controlled. You have to have pretty good balance and stability. And now from this point, we go into more dynamic movements. We're going to start, sweating more. We're going to move at a quicker pace. So heart rate should be up by now. We should have started sweating to a certain extent. I know we're in the desert, but we still sweat. So remember that. Just because for the folks that are coming from the East Coast, just because you don't feel like you're sweating that much, the humidity's not here, make sure we're still hydrating. Make sure we're doing the things we need to do that can allow you to last for the entire day. So now we go to the last section here, and this is just drills to work on quick feet, really getting your nervous system to be ready to go. Because the moment you step on court and hit tennis balls, we don't want you to then warm up again for another 5 or 10 minutes. We want you to be able to go into that first shot and feel like you're moving well, you're active, and you can really get the most out of your tennis hitting time. So let's do the quick fire lateral ball catch drill. So with this situation, where we'll do it, where were the tennis balls? We're at a tennis congress without tennis balls. That's part of it. Here we go. We just need 2. Perfect. Here we go. We're good. So again, we're going to have balls on the court, so we're not going to have a shortage of tennis balls with your warm-up. We're going to be all good from that standpoint. And the goal here is a couple things. One is to get moving, but also it's to really coordinate your upper body and your lower body together, and to really get you thinking about being able to then get out on court and combine hitting with moving. So let's go ahead, guys. So we're going to work in pairs here, and you're just going to take one step basically and move, get in position. Again, many of you are at different levels. Some of you have done things like this before, some of you may not. So the objective is to start at about 60% of what you can handle, and as you do a few more reps, you can start increasing your speed. Again, there's a lot of variations that you can implement. You can do shuffles like that, you can add crossovers, but the goal here is to just get the movement patterns that we're going to start seeing on court. Okay, now we're going to shadow forehands and backhands, and we can do this without the racket, or we can do it with the racket. We'll demonstrate here without the racket, just so that you get a feel for what we're looking to accomplish. So again, step and hit. Take multiple steps, get in position and hit, and we're going to do reps of this. So we're just trying to get you really, really active, mimic the strokes, work on little things that you're trying to make sure that when you get out on court and the tennis ball's in play, that you're not really having to loosen up again. So that's the purpose of that. Yeah, and then the last one is the shadow net play. Many of you are here for the doubles focus. We want to make, and also the ones that play singles, you're going to be coming to the net a lot. We want to make sure that you get in those positions, because that's where the lunges happen. That's when you're reaching for the ball a lot. So we want to really loosen that up. So go ahead. So getting low. The big thing here is try to get that back knee down as low as you can. So you go through a series of volleys into an overhead. Notice how Johnny's doing a phenomenal job of getting that back knee down. That's the real big differentiator between individuals that are good at the net and individuals that struggle. It's how low can you get on the balls that are coming at you. The more you can practice that, the more comfortable you feel with your center of mass being low. So as you can see here, this should take no more than 10 minutes. We went through it a little bit slower so we could demonstrate, make sure everyone feels pretty comfortable. We wanted to keep it relatively simple, so it was exercises many of you may have seen before. You may be doing similar warm-ups to this currently. But again, the purpose is to get you going. The moment you get on court with your expert coaches is you can hit that first ball and feel ready to go, and we don't lose any training time with you warming up. So again, I just want to thank the guys demonstrating. They did a phenomenal job. Really appreciate it. Yeah. And again, couple housekeeping things. Everyone here is at different levels, both of tennis ability, but also of physical fitness and how much training you've done. So don't try to compare yourself to the person on the court with you. You're really just playing with yourself to learn this weekend. Your objectives here are really to find little bits of information from all the experts that are here that you can learn from. Take good notes. Make sure that you ask a lot of questions. And then also take care of your body, because 3 days of tennis is not easy for anyone. and we want to make sure that everyone really finishes as strong as they start. So make sure you're doing the things you need to do from a nutrition standpoint, taking care of, don't miss meals, make sure you've got your snacks with you on court. Take your water breaks, take your drink breaks as often as you need. Your coaches have all been instructed to allow plenty of time for drink breaks and hydration breaks. So anytime you feel tired, somewhat lightheaded, the drill was really rough on you and you just need a breather, just go and take a break for 2 or 3 minutes, get your breath back and get back in. You know, everyone knows that, you know, it's hot out there. Yeah, many of you aren't familiar with these conditions, so really be cautious with how you approach things and take plenty of rest, plenty of hydration, and really enjoy the experience. So look forward to working with everyone and really have a great Congress.